Ready. Oh, hello, everybody. This is the Undercurrent, and we are back here again with one of our rants. So I'm Kevin.
I'm Tony, and this is a rambling.
We are
I
going to
guess
do
a
a
rant. It's probably
rambling
going to be
rant.
more a rambling rant.
What are we talking about today?
I mean, it's just what triggers us. So, let me find the one here that I want to share. So this was the most recent one. Can I blow this up? Oh yeah, here we go. This was posted by one of our city commissioners in Great Falls, Joe McKinney, which I was telling you, Kevin, earlier that typically I don't have many bad things to say about him, but usually I think that's because he doesn't express too many ideas publicly, at least on Facebook, for me to be more critical of. But he decided to do one here.
I'm the same way. I like Joe, but let's go over the numbers and see where we're really at, though. I mean, are we really where we're supposed to be? And when they put things up like this, we're supposed to question them, and I think we should.
Yeah. So first, what I have is just the post that he put up here, showing that Great Falls is stronger than ever, showing population trends, which I think there's a couple of things that, I don't know, it's concerned if you take that Great Falls is stronger than ever from this simple data. Like, that's a pretty bold claim to say just because a population is supposedly growing. But besides that fact, I think the point that he's trying to make here is that 50 years ago, which a lot of people end up benchmarking, at least within the city conversations, these last couple of years, the population of Great Falls has been pretty stagnant. So it's 60,000 then in 1970, about 60,000 in 2020, at least based off these numbers, which are from the U.S. Census. We're going to fact check these a little bit to see how accurate those are. But with that said, I had a couple of issues with this. Well, the main issue I had with this, without actually going into the data, is that this is like a statistical faux pas. Like, anyone who takes Stats 101 or even takes stats class, statistics classes in high school, they learn about data manipulation to be able to demonstrate a narrative that you want to be pushing. The big thing I have here is that, yes, this shows a remarkable decline. Like, look at that slope, and then a remarkable slope upward. But when you look at the numbers, these are the change in between each of these landmark time points is about 1% or 2%. So not even that drastic. And so one of the issues I have with what Joe here has posted is that there is no y-axis that starts at, there's no y-axis and it doesn't start at 0. So with that said, what does this specific data look like if you actually start from 0 in our y-axis? So let me pop up
and then why you're doing that too. I mean, I mean, all you got to do is Google these numbers too. I mean, when you just Google and put it in there, it says, we've been stagnant historical low population. This is according just to Google, compared to other Montana cities, often described as stagnant. And so it's not, it doesn't seem like the internet thinks that we are off base here by checking this out, just by punching it into Google.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, like, the top graph here, this looks pretty similar to what we saw from Joe. But the issue being is that they didn't start that graph at 0. So you could keep zooming in more and more, and you can make this curve look steeper and steeper, and really showing, hey, we went through a hard time between the 70s and 90s, but since the 90s we've recovered. When in all reality, when you look at this at a more appropriate graphical scale, so starting at a population of 0, and then you can actually see what those changes look like. Like, sure, you see a little blimp here and then it goes back up, but it's not to that same extreme that is pointed out by Joe in the example that he shared. So that's my first issue. Like, he is intentionally showing some type of data that goes against and what you were saying a moment ago with what you Google, and sort of the sentiment from a lot of Montanans, is the common sense sentiment here in Great Falls is that we're stagnant. We aren't growing. And so to push a graph out like this, it makes you wonder. And Kevin, I think you asked this before we hopped on or started recording, like, what's the intention to lie or be
manipulate motive? What's the and we could give the benefit of the doubt that Joe would just get the graph right, and just take it at its face value and we don't do a deep analysis in this. And I think we're all guilty of doing stuff like that. It's just like, oh, we're just going to pop it out there and put it or whatever. But the misconception as we go into this other time of election season is now upon us again. And the persuasion of the propaganda that really needs to be looked at is truth needs to be looked at, because we can't fix a problem until truth is really the main thing that we need to admit, that we don't have an economy here really in Great Falls, Montana. And we need to grow that, and we need to have that incentive to come here and not have parking meters and people chalking people's tires. It just sends a bad message for visitors to everybody else that, we're so poor that we can't even afford to pay for our own parking down there, and people in the city needs it. I mean, so there's my soapbox for a minute on that. I mean, if you want you more than welcome to step on this soapbox, but and as a business owner and somebody who else knows a lot of business people here, I'm great that some of them are doing fantastic, but the housing is out of control. And and to show these numbers that we had this great big, are they all from California? Oh no. That's what it is. That big jumps from the Californians.
Oh,
it's a big, yeah.
So I want to before I talk about that again, I want to re-show what Joe put up. And what you can see is that between each of these time points, so 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2020, and 2025, like it's a fairly smooth curve. I mean, there's some variation like there and there, but it makes it seem like there's consistent growth from 1990 to 2020 and their estimated 2025. But that's just not the case based off of what the U.S. Census actually says, which makes me very curious what Joe's what actual census data Joe ended up using here. So with that said, let's see what I had popped up, which is our the actual census data from each of those years, and showing that, from 2020 to, from 1990 to 2025, it demonstrated a straight curve. Where in all reality, there's a little more nuance to that. Like, sure, there's some growth in Great Falls, but then it drops again up until 2020, then goes back up because of the pandemic. But then notice here, it has leveled off in the last couple of years. So this would be 2021, 2022, and 2023. They don't yet have the U.S. Census data, the 5-year data for Great Falls for 2024, 2025. So we'll have to see where those actually come in at. But just noting that the graph isn't as picturesque as what Joe is showing is another reason for concern, because it's not just the scale that they were playing with. It actually seems like they have made up data here. Like, they filled in those lines, which is them making up data, which is, I mean, any statistician or scientist would say that is a major faux pas, and that, like, all the credibility of Joe should be questioned because of that.
Yeah. Who sponsors to, actually, who do we pay to put the data together for the commissioners to be put in front of? That's the person who I think would need to be talked to on this.
Well,
is there a statistic guy sitting around and says, "Here, have this, Joe"?
That's a good question. Yeah, because I mean, I want to chat with him about this, because, like, there's a lot of concerns with what he's doing here. It's on his city commissioner page, so I'm not sure if it was from the city of Great Falls. I don't see them tagged anywhere here. So it is concerning if this does come from the city of Great Falls. Those are our tax-paid employees. Hopefully they should know better.
Well, yeah, okay. So that begs the question. It says U.S. Census Bureau was the source. And then, so what would this be mimicking then from his source, the U.S. Census Bureau? How can we put something over the top of this to see if this is, but I fully agree. This line right here through, I mean, even if that we only grew 2,000 people.
Right.
Those are, like we were talking, those are transient people who just are just coming in for work and then going and then staying for 7 months, the air base and the oil field workers or even for the plant. So there's a lot of other things that are missing in this type of information being flooded out, and it takes a little bit more to look into. Well, what's the truth on this? But who is the person giving this? Do we hire them at the city? Does our taxpayers, foot the bill for this? And that's a good question. I think that could be something that should be answered.
Yeah, definitely should. And just to add to this, because I've been tracking this census data for a while. I haven't quite looked at it at the Great Falls level because I think it's more appropriate to track it at the county level, just because if there's any people moving out of the city into the county or vice versa, you don't have to worry about those changes in population. While at the same time, you still have the same economic activity or the same economic market size in Great Falls. Because just because Great Falls has 60,000 people doesn't mean only those 60,000 people are participating in those local markets there. It's the entire amount of Cascade County and even some of the surrounding areas. But Cascade County provides a better estimate. But to your point about like what data they have, so the U.S. Census publishes two types of data sets, at least for population related things. One's a 5-year basis, and the other one is a 1-year. They both have their pros and cons. The 1 year, this is out a lot sooner, so we should be getting our 2024 census pretty soon, and 2025 should be shortly after that. So this data comes out pretty quickly, whereas the 5-year data, you can't take it. It takes a snapshot across 5 years for a larger sample size, and then sort of averages that out for that particular year. So there's a little more reliability to the 5-year data. It just takes a little longer for them to prepare. But a lot of the trends tend to be the same, which is the important thing. So if we look at the population change since 2011 in Montana versus Cascade County, like Montana has had consistent growth, regardless if you're looking at the 5-year data or the 1-year data. Cascade County, on the other hand, has had fairly stagnant growth. So up until 2020, it was almost 0% growth year over year. And then 2020 happened, and then that's when we started seeing some growth. But 2020 happened, and then after that, it leveled off again. You see a similar trend in the 1-year data. You have a little bit of a gap here in 2020 because they weren't able to capture 1-year data during the pandemic, or at least that first year of the pandemic. So one thing to note, and I'll go back to the 5-year data because I think this is more telling.
Yeah.
If you look at the year over year change and graph that, it's pretty consistent growth, which is saying the slope of the Montana growing has been about 1% year over year growth on a median for the last a little bit over a decade.
So who's been sucking that in? So who sucks?
It's probably
Bozeman,
maybe Whitefish, Flathead area, to some degree. Billings probably to some degree as well. So and that's where you typically hear about all the more serious stories of being priced out of your home and that sort of thing.
Right.
So that they definitely have growth. But I've even read some recent news articles saying that our growth across Montana has started to stagnate, and I'm pretty anxious to start seeing that census data when it comes out. So that's Montana. When you look at Cascade County specifically, though, and this is what I was just pointing out earlier, year over year changes are hovering in 0%, with a couple of years actually being less than 0%. And so before that median growth was negative 0.06%. It had a slight bump because of the pandemic, but then went back down to approximately 0 again.
I wonder why that is. Why did it spike during the pandemic? Was that legitimately people trying to flee for a little while from the regulations? I mean, why all of a sudden? I mean, it's not a big one. What are we talking? Yeah. Not more than 1,000 or so? Would you say? Those are minuscule.
Yeah, my guess here, and this is sort of based off of our demographic numbers here. Honestly, there's no difference between what we see from 2011 to 21 or 22, or I haven't quite looked at 23, but it'll be the same story. In general, you see growth across our demographics. So people, children and adolescents, so those younger than 24, adults 25 to 59, and retirees greater than 60. Across the board, Montana has grown in all of those demographics. The issue being for Cascade County and Great Falls is that we see a loss of families, essentially. So people might be coming here, but then they're not staying. And the people who do stay are retirees. And so that's really a lot of the, at least my hypothesis for a lot of what's causing this blimp right away. A bunch of people probably came to Great Falls, and now we've hit that equilibrium again of those families and children who just graduate deciding not to stay, so they leave, as opposed to trying to stay and building up that population more.
And I think we could get some more data if we dug a little deeper into the schools. How much are they motoring and jockeying children around? Are they coming in? Are they where are the numbers in when, I mean, public school is a very good indicator for finding out population growth. Did you need to open a school? Did you need to shut a school? Did you need to have an area move from one demographic to another? Where, or combine schools. So, and we have seen some of that. And so I'm wondering who provided the data.
Yeah.
Who brought the data? Is it?
And I think that's such a great point, because your point about the kids and the school districts, like, they've even recognized, their forecasts have indicated they're going to have less and less enrollment. And sure, we would like them to make more appropriate cuts to be able to address that. They're still at least doing something about it, and not just kind of burying their heads in the sand. It seems like our county commissioners and our city commissioners, on the other hand, want to either they have told the lie so much that they are starting to believe it and are now basing their policy decisions based off of that lie.
Well, sometimes we just put blinders on and we don't see from left to right, and we're, I would like to know. I'd like to see what's going on. It brings up a very good point, and we should be questioning these numbers. Maybe we will get to sit in with the person who did this data. Maybe Joe would be happy enough to just come on or give us a call or talk to you directly, so we can see, are we paying the taxpayers? Or is the taxpayers' money putting these things up?
Yep.
Well, this is the Undercurrent. Thanks for our short little nibbit. I'm Kevin.
I'm Tony.